30 secrets of your own body that sound like science fiction. Take a second. Just stop. Breathe in slowly. Now breathe out. Do you realize what just happened? Your brain sent electrical signals down your spinal cord, commanded a dome-shaped muscle called your diaphragm to contract, created a pressure difference that pulled air through a winding system of tubes, extracted oxygen from that air and injected it directly into your bloodstream, all without you thinking about it for even a fraction of a second. You didn't choose to do that. Your body just did it. Automatically. Perfectly. Like it has done roughly 600 million times since the day you were born. And here's the wild part. That was one of the simplest things your body does. Welcome. In the next hour, we're going to walk through 30 secrets hiding inside your own body. Secrets that scientists have spent decades uncovering. Secrets that will make you question everything you think you know about what it means to be human. Some of these facts will make you feel like a superhero. Some will make you feel like a walking experiment that got a little out of hand. And a few will genuinely sound like they were written in a science fiction novel. But they're all true. Every single one. So sit back or stand, your posture muscles are doing impressive work either way, and get ready to meet the most extraordinary machine in the known universe, your own body. Your body is a supercomputer. Your brain outperforms any computer ever built. Let's start at the top. Literally. Your brain. This roughly 1.4 kilogram, wrinkled, gray mass sitting inside your skull is, without any exaggeration, the most complex and powerful information processing system we have ever discovered anywhere in the universe. Modern supercomputers can perform hundreds of quadrillions of calculations per second. That sounds mind-blowing, right? Except your brain, in certain types of pattern recognition, creativity, and contextual processing, beats them without even breaking a sweat. And it does all of this while consuming roughly 20 watts of energy, about the same as a dim light bulb. Here's a number that puts it in perspective. The human brain has somewhere between 86 and 100 billion neurons. Each neuron can form up to 10,000 connections with other neurons. That gives us somewhere around 100 trillion synaptic connections, 100 trillion points where information gets processed, filtered, prioritized, and transmitted. If you tried to map every connection in a single human brain, some researchers estimate it would require more data storage than the entire current internet. And the speed? Nerve signals can travel up to 120 meters per second. That's 432 kilometers per hour, faster than a Formula One car. Every time you catch a falling object, recognize a face, or feel a touch, you're witnessing that raw biological speed in action. Your brain isn't just powerful. It's unprecedented. Nothing we've built even comes close. You have a second brain in your gut. Now here's something that might genuinely change how you see yourself. You don't have one brain. You have two. Running along the lining of your digestive system, from your esophagus all the way down to your colon, is a vast, complex network of neurons called the enteric nervous system. It contains around 500 million neurons. That's more nerve cells than are found in the spinal cord. And unlike any other organ in your body, your gut can function entirely independently of your brain. If you severed the vagus nerve connecting your brain to your gut tomorrow, your digestive system would keep right on working. Scientists have started calling this the second brain, and for good reason. This system doesn't just move food along. It produces and manages neurotransmitters, chemical messengers we used to think were exclusive to the brain. In fact, around 90 to 95% of all the serotonin in your body, the neurotransmitter most associated with mood, happiness, and emotional balance, is produced in your gut, not your head. This is why your stomach drops when you're scared, why you feel nauseous when you're anxious, and why so many people going through depression or anxiety also experience digestive issues. Your two brains are in constant conversation with each other, and sometimes your gut leads that conversation. Your DNA contains 1.5 gigabytes of data, multiplied by 37 trillion. If you printed out the genetic code stored in just one of your cells, all 3 billion base pairs of your DNA, it would fill approximately 1.5 gigabytes of data storage. That's like a high-definition movie sitting inside something too small for the naked eye to see. Now for the part that makes your head spin. You have approximately 37 trillion cells in your body, and most of them carry that same complete 1.5 gigabyte instruction manual. That means the total amount of genetic data inside your body right now is roughly 50 billion gigabytes or 50 exabytes. To store all of that data digitally, you'd need more hard drives than currently exist on Earth. And here's the kicker. If you unraveled all the DNA from all your cells and laid it end to end, the strand would stretch approximately 70 billion kilometers. That's enough to travel from the Earth to the Sun and back, more than 200 times. You are quite literally a walking, breathing library of astronomical proportions. You're not as human as you think. You are more bacteria than human. Here's a fact that tends to make people uncomfortable at first. The human body contains roughly as many bacterial cells as human cells, and by some estimates, maybe more. We're talking about 38 trillion bacterial cells sharing your body with your 37 trillion human cells. These aren't invaders. These aren't threats. These are partners. The collection of microorganisms living in and on your body, known as the human microbiome, is so essential to your survival that without it, you simply wouldn't function. Your gut microbiome alone helps you digest food, trains your immune system, produces vitamins, regulates your metabolism, and, going back to our previous point, helps produce the neurotransmitters that influence your mood. The bacteria on your skin form a protective barrier against harmful pathogens. The ones in your mouth are part of your first line of immune defense. Different people have genuinely different microbial communities, and these differences affect everything from how efficiently you absorb nutrients to how you respond to medications. There are researchers who believe that analyzing a person's microbiome could eventually become a standard part of medical diagnosis. You are not a single organism. You are an ecosystem. You completely replace most of your body every few years. Here's a question that philosophers have asked for centuries and that biologists have now answered in a fascinating way. Are you the same person you were 10 years ago? Biologically, in many ways, the answer is no. Your body is in a constant state of renewal. Cells die, and new ones take their place. Endlessly, continuously, for your entire life. The cells lining your stomach are replaced roughly every 5 days. Your skin replaces itself approximately every 2 to 4 weeks. Red blood cells have a lifespan of about 120 days before they're broken down and replaced. Your liver, which we'll come back to later, regenerates most of its cells within a year. Even your bones, which feel permanent, are constantly being broken down and rebuilt. The entire skeleton renews itself roughly every 10 years. Some cells do stay with you for life. Your heart muscle cells and certain neurons in your brain are largely the same cells you were born with. But the majority of your physical body has been replaced multiple times over, which raises an intriguing question. If most of your physical matter has been exchanged, what exactly makes you, you? Some scientists and philosophers point to the information, the patterns, the neural connections, the continuous thread of consciousness. You're less like a static object and more like a river that always looks the same but is never made of the same water. Your DNA contains ancient viral code. Ready for one of the strangest facts about human biology? Approximately 8% of your genome, 8% of your entire genetic code isn't human. It's viral. Over millions of years of evolution, viruses called retroviruses infected our ancestors and inserted fragments of their own genetic code into our DNA. Most of these insertions, called endogenous retroviruses or ERVs, are remnants, broken, dormant pieces of ancient viral code that no longer do anything. But most is not all. Some of these ancient viral genes have been repurposed by evolution and now perform critical functions. One of the most remarkable examples, a protein called syncytin, which is essential for building the placenta that nourishes a fetus during pregnancy, was originally a viral gene. A virus that infected our ancestors tens of millions of years ago accidentally gave us one of the key building blocks of mammalian reproduction. Without ancient viral infections, human pregnancy as we know it might not exist. You are, in a very literal sense, partly built from the ruins of ancient plagues. Your senses are lying to you, sort of. You don't see with your eyes. You see with your brain. Think you're seeing the world right now? What you're actually experiencing is a highly processed, edited, smoothed-out hallucination generated by your brain, based on incomplete data collected by your eyes. That's not a metaphor. That's literally what's happening. Your eyes capture light and convert it into electrical signals. Those signals travel to the visual cortex at the back of your brain, which then does an extraordinary amount of work. Filling in missing information, correcting for the blind spots in your retinas, stabilizing the image so it doesn't shake with every heartbeat and eye movement, predicting what it expects to see based on past experience, and assembling everything into the seamless, continuous visual experience you call sight. The brain also introduces a delay. What you see is not the present moment. It's approximately 80 milliseconds in the past. In most situations, that gap is invisible because your brain constantly predicts what's happening next and plays back a smooth version of reality. But in certain visual illusions and sports science experiments, that prediction engine can be tricked into revealing itself. In other words, you're never seeing the world as it actually is. You're seeing your brain's best current guess about what the world probably looks like. Most of the time, that guess is excellent, but it's always a guess. Your brain invents images to fill your blind spot. Here's a quick experiment. Close your right eye. Hold your left hand out in front of you with your thumb up. Stare directly at your thumb with your left eye. Now slowly move your thumb to the right, keeping your left eye fixed straight ahead. At a certain point, roughly 15 to 20 degrees to the right of center, your thumb will seem to disappear. Welcome to your blind spot. Every human eye has a point on the retina where the optic nerve connects to the back of the eye. At this point, there are 0 photoreceptors, no cells to detect light. This means you have an actual hole in your visual field, roughly the size of 10 full moons stacked side by side. And yet, you've never noticed it before this moment. Why? Because your brain fills it in. Using information from the surrounding area and the other eye, your visual cortex seamlessly fabricates what it expects to be there and inserts it into your perception. It patches the gap so convincingly that you genuinely cannot tell the difference. Your brain is literally making things up inside your visual field, in real time all the time, and you have no way of knowing when it's doing it. The implications of that are worth sitting with for a moment. Your perception of reality is always in the past. We touched on this briefly, but let's go deeper because the implications are fascinating. Your brain, for all its power, is not fast enough to give you truly real-time perception. There are processing delays at every step. When you touch a hot surface, the signal has to travel from your hand, up through nerve fibers, through your spinal cord, all the way to your brain, and then your brain has to process it, recognize it as pain, and generate a response. The entire process takes somewhere between 100 and 300 milliseconds. To compensate for these delays, your brain has evolved a remarkable trick. It constantly predicts the near future. It uses the patterns it's seen before to anticipate what's about to happen and prepositions your body to respond. When you catch a ball, your brain started preparing your hand position before it even received the full visual information about the ball's trajectory. This predictive processing is why optical illusions work, why magic tricks fool us, and why experienced athletes can react to things that seem humanly impossible to react to. They've trained their predictive systems to an extraordinary degree. Reality as you experience it is a model, a sophisticated, constantly updated simulation running inside your skull. You've never experienced the outside world directly, not once in your entire life. The hidden powers of the human body. You have a built-in magnetic compass. Birds use it to navigate during migration. Sharks use it to orient themselves across thousands of kilometers of open ocean. Bees use it to find their way back to the hive. And this is where it gets interesting, so might you. Researchers have discovered that the human brain contains magnetite crystals, tiny, biologically produced particles of iron oxide that are sensitive to magnetic fields. These crystals are found in the human brain, particularly in the hippocampus and brainstem. The same type of crystals are what allow migratory animals to detect and navigate by Earth's magnetic field. Studies at Caltech have found that the human brain shows measurable electrical responses to changes in magnetic field direction, responses that happen unconsciously without the person being aware of them. In other words, your brain is picking up magnetic field information. It's just not forwarding that information to your conscious mind in a way you can readily use. Whether this represents a functional navigational sense that's been suppressed by our reliance on language and visual landmarks, or whether it's just a vestigial remnant, is still being debated. But the hardware is there. You might have a compass in your head that you've never learned to read. Your body glows in the dark. Literally, your body emits light, not metaphorically, not the infrared heat radiation that thermal cameras detect. actual visible spectrum photons of light emanating from your skin right now. This phenomenon is called biophoton emission, and it was first rigorously documented by Japanese researchers who used ultra-sensitive cameras capable of detecting single photons, to photograph the human body in complete darkness. What they found was extraordinary. The human body glows continuously with a gentle light that fluctuates over the course of the day. The light is roughly 1,000 times too faint for the human eye to detect under normal circumstances. It's generated by chemical reactions in your cells, particularly by the oxidation processes involved in normal cellular metabolism. As your cells go about their business, they leak tiny amounts of energy in the form of photons. The glow isn't uniform. It's brighter around the face, particularly near the cheeks and forehead, and it follows a daily rhythm, being strongest in late afternoon and weaker in the early morning. Researchers are now exploring whether biophoton emission could serve as a diagnostic tool, since cells under stress or disease conditions emit different patterns of light. You are literally faintly luminous. Adrenaline can give you superhuman strength. The stories are real. A parent lifting a car off a trapped child. A hiker surviving a bear attack through sheer explosive power. People performing impossible feats of strength in moments of extreme emergency. These aren't myths or exaggerations. They're documented cases of a phenomenon science now understands. When your brain perceives an extreme threat, it triggers the release of adrenaline epinephrine from the adrenal glands sitting on top of your kidneys. This sets off a cascade of physiological changes that happen within seconds. Heart rate spikes, blood vessels dilate to muscles, blood sugar floods into your bloodstream, your perception of pain drops dramatically, and your muscles, which under normal conditions are kept from using their full power to prevent self-injury, are temporarily allowed to fire at much higher intensities. Here's the thing about your muscles that most people don't know. They're artificially limited. Under normal conditions, your nervous system deliberately holds back a significant portion of your muscular force to protect your tendons, ligaments, and bones from tearing or fracturing. Adrenaline partially releases that governor. The result is genuine, physical force output beyond what you're capable of in calm conditions. The downside? Operating at that level burns through energy reserves at an extreme rate and can cause muscle tears and joint damage. Your body essentially borrows strength from your future health to deal with a current emergency. It's a feature, not a bug, but it has a cost. Your body is fighting wars while you sleep. Your immune system kills cancer cells every day. Cancer is not something that only happens to some people and not others because of pure genetics or bad luck. Cancer, the process of cells mutating and beginning to replicate uncontrollably, is happening in your body right now. It's happening in everyone's body, constantly. And the reason most people don't develop cancer is that your immune system finds and destroys those cells before they can establish themselves. Your immune system contains specialized cells called natural killer cells, NK cells, whose primary job is surveillance. They patrol your body looking for cells that are displaying signs of abnormality, unusual surface proteins, erratic behavior, or the characteristic markers of viral infection and malignant transformation. When they find such a cell, they dock with it and inject it with chemical signals that trigger programmed cell death. Every single day, your immune system likely eliminates hundreds or thousands of precancerous cells without you experiencing any symptoms whatsoever. Cancer develops when this surveillance system is overwhelmed, fooled by sophisticated cancer cell camouflage, or compromised by factors like chronic stress, aging, or immunosuppressant medications. The war between your immune system and cellular mutation never ends. Most days, without your knowledge, your body is winning. Your cells are programmed to self-destruct, and that's good. Every cell in your body carries within it the detailed instructions for its own destruction. This isn't a flaw. It's one of the most brilliant features of multicellular life. The process is called apoptosis, programmed cell death, and it's happening in your body right now at a rate of somewhere between 50 and 70 billion cells per day. That's roughly a cell dying for every heartbeat you experience. And your body replaces them just as fast. Why would your own cells need to commit suicide? The reasons are many. Cells that have been infected by a virus self-destruct to prevent the virus from spreading. Cells that have accumulated too many DNA errors self-destruct before they can become cancerous. During development, the cells forming the webbing between your fingers in the womb self-destructed perfectly on schedule to give you separated fingers. Your immune cells self-destruct after fighting an infection to prevent excessive inflammation. When apoptosis goes wrong, when cells lose the ability to self-destruct, the result is often cancer. When it triggers too readily, the result is degenerative diseases. The balance between cellular life and cellular death is one of the most exquisitely calibrated processes in biology. The ability to die at exactly the right moment, in exactly the right way, is a superpower your cells carry in silence. Your body fights parasites while you dream. While you sleep, your immune system shifts into an elevated state of activity. The quiet of sleep is deceptive. Biologically, nighttime is when your body conducts some of its most intense maintenance and defense operations. Cytokine levels, signaling molecules that coordinate immune responses, increase significantly during sleep. Immune cells proliferate. The body produces more antibodies. Memory T cells, which store information about pathogens your body has encountered before, undergo consolidation processes similar to the memory consolidation happening in your neurons. Certain parasitic infections are fought most aggressively by the immune system during sleep cycles. This is partly why people with serious infections experience fatigue and strong drives to sleep. The brain, in a very real sense, is forcing you to go to sleep so that the immune system can work at full capacity. Chronic sleep deprivation doesn't just make you tired. It genuinely impairs immune function, reduces NK cell activity, lowers antibody production, and increases inflammatory markers. The immune system isn't an independent machine. It's deeply integrated with your sleep architecture. Cutting your sleep is, in a very literal way, reducing your ability to fight disease. Time, sleep, and consciousness. You have a biological clock more accurate than many watches. Deep inside your brain, in a tiny region of the hypothalamus called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, a cluster of about 20,000 neurons, sits your master biological clock. This structure governs what scientists call your circadian rhythm, the approximately 24-hour cycle that regulates nearly every system in your body. This clock is so precise that even in the complete absence of external time cues, no light, no temperature changes, no clocks, no social interaction, it keeps running on a schedule that deviates by only minutes per day. Experiments where subjects lived for months in underground bunkers without any natural light consistently showed that the human body maintains a near-perfect daily rhythm. And this clock doesn't just tell you when to sleep and wake. It governs the timing of hormone release, core body temperature fluctuations, blood pressure cycles, digestive enzyme secretion, immune activity peaks, and even cognitive performance windows. There are times of day when your reaction time is fastest, your pain tolerance is highest, your muscle strength is at its peak, and other times when all of these are at their lowest. Your body knows exactly when these windows are, even if you don't. Disrupting this clock, through shift work, jet lag, or chronic late-night screen exposure, doesn't just affect sleep. It disrupts nearly every biological process in your body simultaneously. Long-term circadian disruption is associated with increased risk of metabolic disorders, cardiovascular disease, and certain cancers. Your body lives by a schedule it has been following for millions of years. When you fight that schedule, you're fighting evolution itself. Your brain washes itself while you sleep. For decades, neuroscientists were puzzled by a basic question. The brain is metabolically one of the most active organs in the body, generating enormous amounts of metabolic waste products. How does it clean those waste products out? The brain has no lymphatic vessels, the waste removal highways found throughout the rest of the body. So where does the trash go? The answer, discovered in 2012 by Dr. Maiken Nedergaard at the University of Rochester, is extraordinary. The brain has its own dedicated waste clearance system, now called the glymphatic system. During sleep, particularly during deep, slow-wave sleep, the brain cells shrink by up to 60%. Cerebrospinal fluid then floods into the spaces created, washing through the brain tissue and flushing out waste products, including beta-amyloid and tau proteins, the same proteins that accumulate in the brains of Alzheimer's patients. The brain is essentially running a cleaning cycle during sleep, and the detergent is cerebrospinal fluid. This cycle is dramatically less efficient when you're awake. The clearance rates are estimated to be roughly 10 times slower during waking hours than during deep sleep. This is one of the strongest biological arguments for taking sleep seriously. Every night that you sleep well, your brain flushes neurotoxic waste. Every night you don't, some of that waste accumulates. Over decades, that accumulation has consequences. Sleep isn't downtime. It's the most important maintenance window your brain has. You are paralyzed every night, and it's essential. Every night, during the phase of sleep known as REM, rapid eye movement, your brain enters a state of intense activity. This is the phase most associated with vivid narrative dreaming. Your brain is almost as electrically active during REM sleep as it is when you're fully awake. And during this phase, your brainstem does something extraordinary. It sends signals down your spinal cord that deliberately paralyze your voluntary muscles. Your arms, legs, trunk, everything except your eyes and the muscles controlling breathing is rendered temporarily immobile. This is called REM atonia. Why? Because without this paralysis, you would physically act out your dreams. You'd throw punches during action sequences, run from whatever is chasing you, attempt to speak the words your dream self is saying. There's a sleep disorder called REM sleep behavior disorder where this paralysis mechanism malfunctions, and the results confirm the theory. People with this condition literally do act out their dreams, sometimes violently, sometimes injuring themselves or their partners. So every night, for your own protection, your brain disables your body before taking it on a hallucinatory adventure. And every morning, it quietly reconnects all the systems and lets you wake up. The fact that this works smoothly night after night for decades is one of the most underappreciated miracles of human biology. Regeneration and the limits of the body. Your liver can regrow itself from 25%. Of all the organs in the human body, the liver is the undisputed champion of regeneration. If you surgically removed 75% of a healthy human liver today, the remaining quarter would grow back to near full size within a matter of weeks. This is not a hypothesis or an animal model finding. It is the documented basis of living donor liver transplantation, a surgical procedure performed routinely around the world. A living donor, typically a family member of the recipient, donates a portion of their liver, which is then transplanted. Within 6 to 8 weeks, the donor's liver has regrown to approximately 85% of its original volume. The recipient's transplanted segment grows to fill the space available in their body. Both people walk away with functional livers. This ability is made possible by hepatocytes, the main cell type of the liver, which retain throughout adulthood the ability to rapidly divide and proliferate in response to liver injury or loss. Most adult cells have lost this capacity entirely. Hepatocytes never did. The liver is also one of the body's primary chemical processing factories, performing over 500 distinct functions including detoxification, protein synthesis, bile production, glucose regulation, and the processing of nearly every drug and supplement you consume. The fact that this extraordinarily complex organ can rebuild itself almost from scratch puts every engineering achievement in human history to shame. Your bones repair themselves with engineering precision. When you break a bone, your body initiates a repair sequence that modern materials science engineers openly admit they cannot replicate. The process unfolds in stages, each perfectly choreographed. Within the first few days, a blood clot forms at the fracture site. This is the scaffold. Immune cells flood in to clean up damaged tissue. Then, within about a week, specialized cells called chondrocyte begin laying down a soft cartilage bridge between the broken ends. This bridge provides structural stability while the real work begins. Over the following weeks, osteoblasts, bone-building cells, begin replacing the cartilage with actual mineralized bone. The new bone is initially woven in a somewhat disorganized pattern, but this is intentional. It provides rapid strength. Then, in a process that can take months, a second wave of cells called osteoclasts dissolve and reshape the new bone according to the mechanical stresses it experiences. The final result is remodeled bone that follows the lines of force the body expects that bone to experience in daily life. This final remodeling phase is so precise that, in young healthy individuals, a properly healed fracture site is often stronger than the original bone that broke. The body doesn't just repair, it upgrades. Young children can regrow fingertips. This one sounds like something out of a science fiction regeneration fantasy. But it's real, it's documented. and it happens in hospitals. Children younger than approximately 10 years old who lose a fingertip in an accident, including the bone, can, under the right conditions, regenerate that fingertip. The nail, the skin, the soft tissue, and in many cases a significant portion of the bone will grow back over weeks to months. The regrown fingertip is not a perfect identical copy, but it is functional and anatomically recognizable. This regenerative capacity requires an intact nail matrix, the tissue at the base of the nail responsible for nail growth. When that matrix is present, it appears to send chemical signals that guide the regenerative process. When it's absent, regeneration doesn't occur. Surgeons treating fingertip amputations in young children are now careful to preserve as much nail matrix tissue as possible, specifically to encourage this natural regeneration. The capacity diminishes with age and is largely gone by the time puberty begins. Researchers studying this phenomenon hope it holds clues to one day reactivating regenerative capacity in adult humans, a possibility that remains science fiction for now, but with a credible biological foundation. The mind-body connection is more physical than you think. Your gut bacteria control your mood. We established earlier that your gut produces the majority of your body's serotonin. But the influence of the gut-brain axis goes even further than that, and recent research is rewriting our understanding of mental health. The bacteria in your gut don't just produce neurotransmitters. They communicate directly with your brain through the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body, which connects the brainstem to the abdomen. They also produce short-chain fatty acids and other metabolites that cross the blood-brain barrier and directly influence brain function. Studies in germ-free mice, animals raised with no gut bacteria at all, show profound behavioral and neurological differences from normal mice. They exhibit higher anxiety levels, altered stress responses, and abnormal social behavior. Transplanting the gut bacteria from anxious mice into previously calm, germ-free mice transfers the anxiety behavior. Transplanting the bacteria from calm mice does the reverse. In humans, preliminary research is showing correlations between the composition of the gut microbiome and conditions including depression, anxiety, autism spectrum disorder, and Parkinson's disease. Some of the most intriguing emerging research involves fecal microbiota transplants, transferring gut bacteria from healthy donors to patients, showing measurable effects on mood and neurological symptoms. The idea that your state of mind might be influenced by trillions of microorganisms living in your intestines sounds science fictional. But the evidence is growing more compelling by the year. Placebos work even when you know they're placebos. The placebo effect has been known for decades. The phenomenon where an inactive treatment produces measurable physical improvement because the patient believes they're receiving real medicine. Most people assume the placebo effect is essentially self-deception, or at most a psychological phenomenon with limited physical reality. The reality is far stranger and more significant. Placebos produce measurable, physical, biological changes. Studies using brain imaging show that patients given a placebo painkiller show genuine activation of the brain's pain suppression systems, with real release of endorphins, the same natural opioids triggered by actual pain medication. The belief that pain relief is coming literally causes the brain to manufacture its own pain relief. Now for the mind-bending part. This works even when patients know they're taking a placebo. Researchers at Harvard Medical School gave patients with irritable bowel syndrome pills that were clearly labeled placebo pills, made of an inert substance. Patients were told explicitly that the pills contained no active ingredient. Approximately 60% of them still reported significant improvement in their symptoms. The mechanism isn't fully understood, but the leading theory is that the ritual of taking medicine, the expectation of improvement, and the relationship with a caring medical provider trigger real physiological cascades that are independent of the conscious understanding that the treatment is inert. Your body responds to the context and meaning of treatment, not just its chemistry. The implications for medicine are enormous, and the implications for understanding the relationship between mind and body are profound. A broken heart can actually kill you. The expression "dying of a broken heart" is not merely poetic. It describes a real, documented medical condition called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy, also known as stress cardiomyopathy or broken heart syndrome. Takotsubo occurs when an intense emotional or physical shock, the death of a loved one, a terrifying accident, extreme surprise, causes a massive surge of stress hormones, particularly adrenaline, that temporarily stuns and weakens a portion of the heart muscle. The left ventricle partially balloons out and stops contracting effectively. The result is a condition that looks and feels almost identical to a major heart attack, including chest pain, shortness of breath, and dangerously abnormal heart rhythms. Unlike a conventional heart attack, there's usually no arterial blockage. The arteries are fine. The heart muscle itself has been temporarily stunned by chemistry. Most patients recover fully within days to weeks. But in some cases, the condition is fatal. Takotsubo disproportionately affects women, particularly postmenopausal women, and is most commonly triggered by the death of a spouse or close family member. The syndrome was identified and named by Japanese cardiologists in 1990. Takotsubo is Japanese for octopus trap, because the left ventricle in the condition takes on a distinctive rounded shape resembling the pot used to catch octopuses. You can, in a very real physiological sense, be shocked to death by grief. The heart and the mind are not separate systems. Bugs in the system evolution's leftover code. You have a reflex designed for aquatic mammals. Put your face in cold water and something extraordinary happens in your body, automatically, without any conscious choice. Your heart rate slows, blood vessels in your extremities constrict, and blood is redirected away from your limbs and toward your brain and vital organs. This is called the diving reflex or the mammalian dive response. In marine mammals like seals, dolphins, and whales, this reflex is highly developed and essential for survival during extended dives. It allows them to stay submerged for far longer than would otherwise be possible by dramatically reducing the body's oxygen demands. In humans, the reflex is considerably weaker. We are not aquatic mammals, but it's unmistakably present and remarkably well preserved in our biology. The colder the water on your face, and the more water contacts the area around your eyes and nose, the stronger the response. In infants, the reflex is even more pronounced. Emergency medicine takes advantage of this. Dunking a patient's face in ice water or applying ice packs around the eyes is a legitimate technique for quickly slowing a dangerously rapid heart rate, a condition called supraventricular tachycardia. The ancient aquatic reflex, built into your brainstem, can be used to regulate cardiac emergencies. Whether this represents ancient shared ancestry with our aquatic mammalian relatives or a convergent adaptation, the fact that you share this reflex with dolphins is, at minimum, extremely cool. Goosebumps are an obsolete defense system. You've had goosebumps thousands of times in your life. You've probably never thought too carefully about why. The answer is that goosebumps are a feature your body inherited from ancestors with substantially more body hair, and in your case, they've been running on outdated software ever since. The technical term is piloerection. Tiny muscles attached to individual hair follicles, called erector pili muscles, contract, causing the hairs to stand upright and the skin around them to pucker into small bumps. In most mammals, this serves two clear functions. In cold conditions, raised fur traps a layer of air close to the skin, creating insulation, essentially a built-in parka. In threatening situations, raised fur increases the animal's apparent size, a defensive display designed to make predators reconsider. In humans, the mechanism is identical. The muscles still fire, the follicles still respond, but the result is dramatically underwhelming. A few millimeters of barely perceptible fuzz that does essentially nothing for insulation and certainly doesn't make you look more intimidating to a predator. Your body is still faithfully executing a command that last made meaningful sense when your ancestors were significantly furrier. The hardware runs perfectly. The software just hasn't been updated in about 1 million years. The hiccup has no known useful function. The hiccup is, by most accounts, the most embarrassing evolutionary accident in human biology. A hiccup occurs when the diaphragm, that large breathing muscle we mentioned at the beginning of this video, spasms involuntarily. Each spasm causes a sudden intake of air, which is immediately followed by the vocal cords snapping shut, producing the characteristic hic sound. The whole event takes a fraction of a second and accomplishes nothing useful. Unlike goosebumps or the diving reflex, the hiccup appears to serve no current function whatsoever. There's no known benefit to your health or survival from hiccuping. The closest thing to a leading theory is that the hiccup is a phylogenetic remnant, an echo of an ancient reflex system inherited from our pre-amphibian ancestors possibly related to the gill ventilation mechanism used by larval amphibians like tadpoles, who need to periodically clear water from breathing structures. In support of this somewhat humbling theory, the neural pathway that triggers hiccups in humans is almost identical to the neural pathway that controls gill ventilation in amphibians. We may, in other words, inherit our most ridiculous and pointless reflex directly from our fish and amphibian ancestors, preserved in our brainstem as a kind of biological graffiti from 375 million years of evolution. The universe really does have a sense of humor. The future is already in your body. Your body runs on electricity. We talk about electricity as something that comes from power plants and flows through wires. But electricity is not an invention. It's a fundamental feature of life. Your body doesn't just use electricity. Your body is, in significant part, an electrochemical machine. Every nerve impulse that has ever fired in your body is an electrical signal, an action potential, created by the rapid flow of sodium and potassium ions across a cell membrane, generating a pulse of about 70 millivolts that propagates along the nerve fiber. Your heartbeat is coordinated by electrical signals originating from a cluster of cells called the sinoatrial node. Your brain generates measurable electromagnetic fields powerful enough to be detected by EEG sensors placed outside your skull. The total electrical power of the resting human brain is approximately 20 watts. The entire nervous system consumes somewhere between 11 and 12 watts. Scientists and engineers are actively developing bioelectronic medicine, treatments that use precisely targeted electrical signals to modulate nerve activity, treating conditions ranging from epilepsy to depression to inflammatory diseases without drugs. Neural prosthetics, devices that interface directly with the nervous system to restore movement in paralyzed patients, are already a reality. Companies and research groups are developing brain-computer interfaces capable of reading electrical signals from the motor cortex and translating them directly into computer commands. The future of medicine is partly about learning to speak the language your body has been using all along, the language of electricity. Your emotions can be inherited by your children. For most of the 20th century, the central dogma of genetics was clear. You inherit DNA from your parents, and that DNA determines your biological traits. What your parents experienced during their lifetimes, their joys, their traumas, their stresses, could not be biologically passed on to you. Genes were fixed. Experiences were not heritable. That certainty has been shaken by an emerging field called epigenetics, the study of heritable changes in gene expression that don't involve changes to the DNA sequence itself. In landmark experiments, researchers exposed male mice to a specific smell, cherry blossom, while simultaneously delivering mild electric shocks. The mice learned to fear that smell. Their offspring, who had never been exposed to the smell or the shocks, also showed heightened anxiety responses to it. Their grandchildren did too. The fear of a specific sensory experience was transmitted biologically across generations, not through learning, but through chemical modifications to the DNA. In human studies, researchers have found evidence that the children and grandchildren of people who experience severe famine, chronic stress, or trauma show measurable biological differences in stress hormone systems, metabolism, and even cognitive function. The Holocaust, the Dutch hunger winter, and childhood trauma studies have all contributed data pointing in this direction. The experiences of your parents and grandparents may have left marks on your biology that you carry without knowing it. And the experiences you have today may leave marks on the biology of your children. You are not merely an individual. You are a link in a chain that transmits not just genetic code, but biological echoes of lived experience across generations. Your body contains cells that can become anything. We close with what may be the most profound secret of all, one that carries more potential for the future of medicine than almost anything else in biology. Your body contains stem cells, cells that have not yet committed to a specific identity, cells that, under the right conditions, can become almost any type of tissue in the body. These are the master builders of your biology. Embryonic stem cells, the ones present in the earliest days of human development, are pluripotent. They can become any of the 200 or so cell types that make up the human body. As development proceeds, most cells progressively narrow their identity until they become permanently specialized. But some stem cells remain in adult tissues, in bone marrow, in the lining of the gut, in the brain, in muscle tissue, retaining varying degrees of flexibility. The discovery that adult skin cells can be reprogrammed back into a pluripotent stem cell-like state, a finding that earned Shinya Yamanaka the Nobel Prize in 2012, opened the door to possibilities that once seemed entirely science-fictional. Damaged hearts might be repaired with new cardiac muscle grown from the patient's own reprogrammed cells. Spinal cords severed by injury might be regenerated. Organs might be grown in laboratories from a patient's own cells, eliminating the need for donors and rejection risks. These technologies are not fully realized yet, but they are in development in clinical trials progressing steadily. The biological raw material for extraordinary regeneration already exists inside you. Science is learning to read its instructions, 30 secrets, and we've barely scratched the surface. You contain more bacterial cells than human cells. You glow faintly in the dark. Your brain cleans itself while you dream and paralyzes your body to protect you from your own imagination. Your gut makes most of your serotonin and talks to your brain through a nerve running the length of your torso. Your immune system is killing cancer right now, today, without telling you. Your cells carry ancient viral DNA that was repurposed to build the placenta. Your liver could regenerate from a quarter of itself. Your bones don't just heal, they upgrade. And every single one of these things, these extraordinary, improbable, borderline miraculous processes, is happening inside the body you woke up in this morning. The body you probably haven't thought about much today. The body you might even feel frustrated with sometimes. There's a certain kind of wonder that's available to us when we look outward at galaxies and black holes and the vast distances of space. But there's an equally profound wonder available when we look inward. The complexity inside a single cubic centimeter of your cerebral cortex rivals the complexity of entire star systems. The intelligence embedded in your immune system has been refined by 500 million years of evolutionary trial and error. The machines inside your cells operate at a scale and precision that our best nanotechnology can only dream of approaching. You are not ordinary. You never were. You are the current iteration of a 4 billion year-long experiment in increasing complexity, beauty, and awareness. And you are, without question, the most sophisticated thing that we know of in the entire observable universe. Take care of yourself accordingly. Thanks for watching. If any of these secrets genuinely surprised you, we'd love to know which ones. And if you want to go deeper on any of them, the glymphatic system, the microbiome, epigenetics, bioelectronic medicine, let us know. There are entire rabbit holes of astonishment waiting for you. Until next time.